All right, I've got Colten now mic'd up.
All right, here we are.
Colten, what do you do?
I mix monitors.
What does that mean?
It means I do way more than anybody else. No.
Okay.
So I mix lots of mixes, separate mix for every band or every band member, all the guys in the band. So they all get, where Jeff mixes one mix for the crowd, I have separate mixes of all the audio inputs to the guys so that they can hear what they need to hear on stage.
How'd you get into this?
Started when I was very young. I was always a tech person. I was into computers, I was into music, I was a drummer. Started in church with this like little Mackie analog 32 channel thing with the youth band used. And then I played drums in church and then went upstairs and was on the Soundcraft, as I was getting towards the end of high school.
I feel like every church had a Soundcraft.
All of them, and they all failed. All the power supplies failed. That was a thing with the big old analog Soundcraft stuff. But so I did that. Then the summer after I graduated, I did this thing called drum corps. I marched snare drum, and it's like the NFL of like marching bands, like what it was. So I've been touring literally ever since. Started as a player, and then now a tech person. Ever since I graduated high school.
And the obvious trajectory for a drum corps is monitors.
Absolutely, yeah, that's how that always works. But I did that for a while. I started doing audio for them, and then I did audio for the different drum corps group called the Bluecoats. Mixed front of house for that. That was a crazy thing.
And did they have blue coats?
They didn't when I was there. They switched to costumes, so that was a big thing. But I did that. I mean, it was like 120 inputs live all the time, all kinds of like 60 channels of wireless, constant. Doing big stadiums, doing that. So that was obviously like in the band world. I worked with, I apprenticed actually for a guy that worked for Roland Pro AV. Awesome guy. He would put me on, they had that M5000 console. He would put me on events or gigs where they just needed somebody else to kind of, hey, we're gonna do a sales event and like we're giving these people a console to get, media coverage or whatever, saying, hey, somebody's using it. And one happened where they were like, hey, we need a monitor guy for this guy named Tim Rushlow. I was like, okay, cool, I can do that. Sure, I'll go do that. I'm thinking, Tim Rushlow, who is this guy? Okay, he was the front person for a band called Little Texas. Okay, so country, 5-piece band. All right, cool. Well, I show up and it's Tim Rushlow and his big band. And I'm doing big band jazz, mixing 22 mixes as a monitor guy, and I've never really done it before. It's like,
just dove in the deep end.
Okay, cool, I guess I can figure this out. So I did that. They didn't immediately fire me, so that was cool. They were great guys.
That was cool.
And that was cool, so I did that. It was a little residency in Nashville, and then through that, I was a house guy at a place called the Wild Horse in Nashville. Did front of house and monitors, liked monitors, met a lot of people, and then inevitably when that ended, I met Jeff and started working for a company called 242 Concepts, which supplies all the audio for this band. Started doing a couple little things here and there, helping those guys load trucks, building pedal board pieces. I was doing all that kind of stuff for this band, not touring. And then I was off doing a gig, and COVID happened. Off doing a gig, and I got the call, hey, my monitor guy tested positive for COVID, so you're coming to mix monitors for us. Okay, cool, I'll be there tomorrow. Mix monitors for a leg. They were like, we like having you around, you've obviously helped us, did great, intermingled with the guys great. So I came out as a tech on the next run. 3 days in, Jeff's wife had to have like emergency surgery, so they were like, for this run, you're mixing front of house. All right, cool. So first 2 runs with this band, I mixed both positions, and we went from there. Monitor guy was with the band for like 20 years. He was the recording guy as well, and he decided to retire, so it was kind of natural for me to step in and take the monitor spot. So
it seems like monitors, just as important as being able to do the mix is being able to deal with people as well, and being able to deal with band members. Would
Absolutely.
you agree with that?
Yes. So a big thing is being personable with those guys, knowing what they need, knowing when I get that look, or not even when they're looking at me, like when I see that look on their face, I know what to do. So them knowing that I've got their back, I'm doing everything that I can do to make them comfortable and send them out, them knowing everything's going to work. And if something doesn't work, I'm right there to help them, and I'm going to be there with them to get them through it. It's very important.
All right, I see a lot of buttons. I see a lot of screens. Do you know what all the buttons do?
I might. I kind of make it up every night.
Can you walk me through your equipment, what you got?
Yeah, sure. So I use we both now have made the switch to the Allen Heath D-Live platform. So I use a S5000 Surface. We use DM0 mix engines. There's no analog split. We kind of share all of that through the Giga Ace platform, and we actually have stage boxes and a stage rack on stage, and that's where all of the inputs on the stage come into.
Can we see it?
Yeah, sure. Let's walk out here. So behind these cabinets, this kind of hides back here. So we've got these little DX168 boxes, and that's 16 ins by 8 outs per box, and you can chain them together. So it's basically one data line that comes back to my console, and I've got 32 ins by 16 outs. So everything kind of breaks out from here. It keeps everything kind of close, fairly neat, and that's where all of our I/O is. So that's
awesome.
That's how it gets into my world over here. So once all that comes to me, I split it off to Jeff's console, which is out front. He's on an S5000 as well, and that's how we get all of our inputs.
Why the Allen Heath?
Man, the Allen Heath has been super flexible. That's the biggest thing to me, is that I can switch surface sizes. You know, I really like the S5. It's not too big, it's not too small. I got all the faders I need, all the layers that I need. But a big thing, you know, this band is in their 50th anniversary year right now. So most of this stuff goes like when we tour internationally. It's very important for me to have as close of a rig as possible when we go outside of the country. So all of this stuff goes. We scale down a couple, like I scale down work boxes, that stuff goes in Pelicans, but I can just take the small surface. I don't have to have all of this. It's an extra case for flying and shipping stuff. You know, I can strap the little surface on top and have all my miscellaneous stuff all really in one container, and it goes. There's no file conversion. They have expansion cards, because I used to be a big Avid guy. I like the S6, got a lot of time on the S6L, but like the Dante capability had to be in the stage box. It wasn't as versatile. The waves, because we use a waves card for recording, is fantastic. Everything's 128 by 128. You can make it a big loop. You can just send a single cable and get all kinds of different stage box options. You're not restricted. It's just versatile, and that's what I really like. And it sounds good. It doesn't, I don't get the versatility and sacrifice sound or sacrifice effects or sacrifice bussing and flexibility of how I use the surface. I still get all of it. So that's why I go Allen Heath.
So I heard no waves, all native.
I run everything native, yeah.
Walk me through what you're doing.
Not a bunch. So I feel the simpler the better, personally. Less things to go wrong, but like I said, I want to make the guys comfortable. So I like big snare sounds, so I have a snare verb, and then I have a full-on drum verb. My drummer likes to hear all of himself kind of almost in like a big room, you know. He likes it to kind of reverberate the whole drum kit. So I've got that with a separate snare so I can get those really big snare sounds. I have, for my saxophones, I have a pitch shift. This changes a little bit during the show. It's like right now, it's just like a +4, -4. It's just to give it a little twang. Buddy, our sax player, is an amazing sax player. But his tone is very different from Hank. I don't know if you know anything about the Destroyers, but Hank Carter was the original saxophone player, and he had this huge, nasty tone on his saxophone, and it was just, you know, this mean tone. Buddy's an amazing player. Just the tone is a little softer with Buddy. So I tune this with the pitch doubler, and really I can, like on songs like I Drink Alone, where you get that big sax howl, I can really crank that up and get more of those tones out of the saxophone. Verb for him as well. He likes to be drowning in verb in his ears for him, his instrument personally. I have a slight guitar verb. My guitar player really hates wearing ears. He understands the benefits of wearing them and he wears them, but he likes listening in the room more than he likes wearing in-ears. So I use lots of things to make him feel like it's very open, including his reverb to kind of help him feel like he's in the room. And then I have a specific tap delay that I kind of tune in every day for how long the room is. So when we do sound checks, he won't wear his in-ears for sound checks, so he can hear what the room is going to be like during the day. And then at the end of songs, you know, I kind of fine tune this for whatever room we're in, so I can throw that up and it actually gets like you're actually in the room. Makes him a little bit more comfortable. Same thing for vocals. I have a verb just to make everybody feel like it's not, George isn't singing directly into their ear. It's a little bit more open. And a tap delay for that. There's a couple of spots in the show where he has a tap delay effects on his vocals. So fairly straightforward. Just lots of verbs and delays and a little pitch shifter. So.
All right, you have no wedges. This is a very clean stage.
Very clean stage.
How much RF are you doing? What are you using? Walk me through it.
We have 16 channels of RF. We don't use all of them all the time. I've got 4 channels over in Guitar World for the Boss. He's got 4 channels active. Cool thing about the Shure units is that they can sum into outputs, all your channels of wireless. So we have 4 channels that are open all the time and they just come out of one output that go into his pedal board. All of this is networked, by the way, so I can control it here. Additionally, I have another quad wireless Shure unit. They also sum in, you can do 4 into a single output, or you can do like 1 and 2 sum and go into an output, and 3 and 4 sum and go to an output. So I have my guitar player and bass player that way in our stage rack, right behind their cabinets. That's so they can each have a pack that's their main pack, and then a backup pack that's on, ready to go. All they got to do is turn their volume down, grab the next guitar, turn their volume up. I think, as Jeff was saying, they're pretty independent in how they deal with their gear. Our tech will tune everything for them and make sure it's ready when they walk up and at showtime it's ready to go. But typically they're, you know, they've got pedal boards, they've got tuners, they can kind of take care of themselves. So I give them a main and a spare pack that's ready to go. So if they needed to change or something, something's wrong, they can just walk off to their vault right here, grab the other guitar, volume up, and they're good to go. I have 2 quad ULXD units right here for my main vocal. Also have a channel for alto saxophone and tenor saxophone, so they're all wireless, they can run around. And then I've got another, which is just some guest vocals. You know, sometimes we have guests that'll come out and sit in or do something, or we deal with, very often we'll have like a solo acoustic opening act, and it's just easier for us to, you know, throw a vocal and a guitar up in the side fills instead of having to have another, like a house desk back here. So we'll use that. And then I've got some simply spare lines that are set up for, if I had like a sax go down, I could grab a spare pack and send that out there with them.
What band are you running?
G50 on all of the wireless inputs. And then I've got 8 channels of PSM 1000 and X55, which is up in the 900s. You gotta have your Part 74 license for that.
Okay, explain that a little more.
So Part 74 is like, you gotta file with the FCC, and it gives you permission basically to operate within that band. We did it through Professional Wireless. Like when you buy, there's a helical antenna that's like the normal clear helical that you see from PWS, but it's tiny because 900 is smaller wavelength. So like the antennas here, much smaller. Typically you'll see them, they're about that long. They've got a yellow tip on them. These are red, smaller antenna.
Can we see the helical?
Yeah, sure. It's right here. Sit it right here on the guitar vault, pointing right on stage. So it's a little bit smaller than the typical PWS. But when you buy that through there, they say, hey, are you just buying this, or do you need, the licensing and whatnot? And we said we need to do all the licensing and everything. We're wanting to buy these, have a little bit clearer spectrum to work in. And they were like, all right, cool. It's a service that they do. You give them your info, they file the license for you and say good to go. So there you go. So we're all in the 900s on ears. It's super clear. Never had an interference problem up there. Just had to be careful because some water meters will be in the 900s.
Really?
Some hospital communications will be in the 900s. So that's why you had to have a license, is so that you have to be aware of what's around you. A lot of times you'll have to coordinate with local frequency coordinators that deal with that, so that you can get permission to use certain parts. So you have to really know what you're doing there. But as long as you do and you abide by all the laws, they're fantastic. They work great. And I scan even to, I do a scan to, like, even when I do with locals, let me scan out here. When I deal with like local coordinators and I get frequencies I'm supposed to use, I just scan to double check. And I mean, look how clear that is. There's absolutely nothing. The noise floor is so low. This is actually a piece of wireless that's like our LEDs in this rack, and it follows me everywhere. But that's the only peak that I got. Yeah.
So explain the different colored lines. You got a red line, you got an orange line.
Yeah. So
and there's a bunch of. So I've got a lot of engineers who are seasoned that watch this, but I've got some people who know nothing about it. So could you explain kind of what we're looking at here?
Yeah, sure. So basically, let me go here. Basically, this is a scan of the airwaves, right? So this is what you can't see in RF radio frequencies. So where this is blocked off right here, this is a TV channel. You can tell because it juts up. It's a digital TV channel. It juts up and it like plateaus, and then it juts back down. So this is very obviously a TV channel. You can go into Spectrum here and go to TV channels, and it will find, you put in the zip code or their GPS coordinates, depending on where you are. I use this all over the world, multiple countries, literally 19 countries last year. You put in your GPS coordinates, it tells you what TV channels there are around you. Then my scan validated that. The TV channel scanner marked this off, and my scan validated that by showing me, hey, yeah, there's a TV channel here. So you want to avoid that. This red line going across, that's basically the line that I pay attention to. It's basically saying, hey, if anything is over this line, I don't want to put a frequency there that you're going to use. So I put this at -90 usually, which is quite low. Usually with wireless workbench, it comes at -80, I think. You can even go up higher than that. Just kind of depends on what you're wanting to do. I put it at -90 personally because I know that when you assign and deploy, it gives you a star rating on your frequencies. So like here, I've got a couple of 1-star frequencies. So typically you want the 3 stars, the better ones, not just the 1 or 2 stars. However, I know that with this being so low, I know that even my 1-star frequencies are at -98, -100 on the noise floor. So even if it's a 1-star, I should be good to put a frequency there. And there are some places, Phoenix, Arizona, that the noise floor is completely over there. If you keep it at -90, you won't have any frequencies to use. So you got to adjust it day to day. It's kind of something that wireless I've learned a lot. I dealt a lot with it with the drum corps thing I was telling you about. I mean, we had literally 60 channels of wireless with all of the quad ULXD units, the Axiate units, the PSM units that we're using. So you had to learn what was where, and that you're moving 2 or 3 times a day, so you got to scan multiple times a day and calculate and everything. But that's generally what I'm looking for here is, what's the scan look like? What is, this is where I want it to be below. What does that noise floor look like? And then I can place within here. And then when you analyze, you can see that everything is checking off green and showing I'm good.
And what is this program you're using here?
This is Wireless Workbench 7.
Can't even see me. All right, what had happened here is
Hold on.
I'm an audio guy. The battery died. I'm not a camera guy. I don't have a camera guy here. So we're gonna get back to where we were before. Sorry about that, y'all.
All right.
Wireless Workbench.
This is Wireless Workbench 7.
It is.
Wireless Workbench 6 works just the same. I basically use it for the Wireless Workbench 6 features. I don't really use any of the new stuff. So it's been stable. I like the dark mode. It's great when you're, in
Dark mode is
theaters
life.
and it's dark. I live life by dark mode, so, but yeah, so that's how I take care of all the frequency coordination every day. So I take care of, with the units scattered around, I take care of all the frequency coordination for everybody, and then I'll send it out and let them know that wireless is good and they can start syncing up their packs and all the guitar worlds and everything.
I love the I love the implementation of your MEs, your personal monitor mixes.
Oh, they're not MEs, they're just the controllers. They're IP8s.
Oh, the IP8s.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. So
I love the application of your IP8s that you're using.
the MEs are cool. They're like the little Avion pieces. These act like those. I've got one that's the IP8, and then there's one in Tech World over there, which is an IP6. It's got 6 knob encoders instead of 8 faders.
So this is just, in essence, personal monitor.
It's not even that, it's just a controller. So you can be anything on the D-Live. And the cool thing about the D-Live is it has 10 PFL buses. So I reserve 1 as the monitor engineer. I'm PFL 1. When I solo anything on the console or anything on this controller, it goes to PFL 1, but I actually have PFL 2 assigned to my guitar tech. And he's got a controller. Anytime he solos anything, it goes to PFL 2, which is inevitably in his ears. So that's how we can kind of separate those things. It takes all of that control of, hey, can I get this in my mix? I'm having a hard time telling. Push the button and pan however they want, if they want it in different ears. Whatever they want to do, I just give the control over there. And it's all wireless because it's not an ME where all of the audio is in the unit. It's just a controller that you plug into the network. It's got PoE, so I send PoE to it, and it's just powered over one cable. The control is happening in my mix engine, in my console, and it's hitting their wireless pack and sending it over to him. So much simpler than me trying to mix something and then I'm getting, hey, can I get this in my mix? Hey, can I get that? So it makes it, he's a little bit more self-sufficient at that point.
All right, another question.
Yeah.
How can someone select good in-ears?
That is a good question. So we use a mixture of in-ears. I have nothing against any of those companies. I've had products from those companies. They're great. They do a lot of drivers, which it requires more power and it gives you lots of control, especially if you're into that audiophile type mixing thing. The Sensophonics are great because it's 2 drivers. It's a high and low. Or my bass player has a double bass loaded, so it's a 3 driver. So it's 2 bass, 2 lows, and a high. It's a little bit simpler. Dr. Santucci is behind Sensophonics. He's a true audiologist. The whole slogan is respect your ears. So they're all about hearing preservation and how that ties to illnesses. He was talking to me the last time I saw him. They're out of Chicago. We were doing a show outside of Chicago. And he was talking to me about how he's done studies about how hearing loss relates to early onset dementia and all this stuff. It's very crazy, the research that he does, but it's coming, looking at in-ears from the perspective of a true audiologist, which is fantastic. These are not hard acrylic, they are soft rubber, so they move with you. They feel really good in the ear. And they take into account how much space there actually is from the end of the ear to your eardrum, and this is where the audio mixes, so that amount of space is very important to know and calculate in how this is going to sound. There's another company that we use called Acius Technologies. They have a product called the Adele, which is Stephen Ambrose is the guy behind that. But it's this thing that you put in your ear and it actually inflates. It's made for older musicians that have lots and lots of hearing loss, because it inflates and it actually acts like a false eardrum. You get about 90% of that audio coming through absorption in your ear canal. It's fantastic. My drummer, he's about as deaf as this case. So, playing drums for 50 years. He is the original destroyer of George Thorogood and the Destroyers, and they played drums at Live Aid and just these massive shows where it's just so loud, and he's got a lot of hearing loss. He has to wear hearing aids constantly. So that product has really helped him. It inflates, it moves with you whenever you talk and open your jaw. You get a fantastic seal out of it. We were exclusively on those, and they're just, some of the guys wanted and preferred just a put in and not have to pump and do this kind of thing when they're trying to bounce around a bunch of instruments, so that's fine. But my drummer and my guitar player specifically, who doesn't like wearing in-ears, he can deflate them a little bit and get more ambience, while also still getting good absorption from that bubble.
Like the old Jordan pumps, but for your ears.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm about, I love all the guys at those companies. We're not endorsed really by anybody. My job as a monitor guy for this band is to find the best thing that makes them comfortable. So if one product works, that's great. We're going to go with that product. And if something else works for another guy, that's great. That's what we're going to go. I really like those Adeles. Like I said, we were exclusively on them for a while. I'm dealing with more people. I've got managers over here. I've got the security guy asking me, hey, is that our camera that we put out? And I gotta say, oh no, that's somebody recording that didn't sign a release, and so I'm constantly doing this. So it made it a little bit harder to have the pumps in, but for the guys that it helps, truly amazing product. So they're awesome.
All right, we got 2 more screens to go over here.
Oh yeah. I have a lot of screens because I'm ADD like crazy. If I don't have it in front of me, I forget. It goes completely somewhere else, out of sight, out of mind. So I have lots of screens up. Really, I work my console. Let me just go over, I'll grab that. I'll just go over the whole thing as a whole. You can bank these so that, like if I hit this button, if these 2 were banked, they would both change. I have everything completely separated. Jeff has them banked where these are inputs, this is outputs. I have everything separated, so these are my inputs as you go through. This is my working area, right in the center of the console, right at my screen where I would be able to work on, get to my utilities, get to my meter, see all of my important things. I mix all my DCAs, have things that I can throw to make different effects happen. And then these are my outputs. So I work very much left to right all the way through. The tablet gives me basically my side fill mix, and it's up all the time. So I'm 1 button away really from getting there, but just in case I needed to grab something, this is my side fill mix and I can go straight to it. With the tablet, it's also wireless, so when we're doing virtual sound check, I can take this and walk out and stand right exactly where the boss is gonna be and make sure it's sounding exactly like it needs to sound. So that's the tablet. Like we said earlier, the side fills are the only live cabinets on stage. I mean, there are guitar cabinets, but the live audio related cabinets. I don't have wedges, I don't have all that stuff. But everybody else is on ears except for George. So I wear ears for the majority of the time, 98% of the time in the show, unless I'm saying something to somebody, I've got to pull them out, or if I've got to talk to the band member that comes over and is saying something to me, or if something sounds weird and I just pull them out to check the side fills. Other than that, I'm wearing my ears almost all the time. So I have this screen, which is set up to always be an RTA of what's coming through the side fills. So I can always at a glance see exactly what's happening in the fills. If something starts to take off, Like if it's going to feed back or something, it'll start to come up. I've got it set to a bar graph. That will rise, I can see it, and I can very quickly react and make the appropriate change. Moving over, this IP controller is just really my throw and go stuff. It's also a backup to my console, my Surface, because all the processing on the Allen & Heath is actually in the mix engine down here. So I can actually turn this Surface off and in the middle of the show, and nothing will happen except for I'll lose my talkback mic. That's the only thing plugged into it. So this thing can completely power down and the show and audio keeps going. So this is set up completely separate. It's into a switch, power over Ethernet. It's one cable. So if I, for some reason, things started getting glitchy, which hasn't happened, but I'm a man of backups. If this for some reason started getting glitchy and I needed to reset it or it just wasn't working, I'm right here and I've got all of my DCAs that I mix my show on. I've got a couple of extra things that I can get to, my outputs. And then I have a money layer, which is, this is always up because it's things that I grab often. The song Bad to the Bone has an alto sax solo. It's the only song he plays alto on. So no matter where I'm at, no matter what I'm taking care of, I can reach over and unmute that alto when it's time. Guitar tap delay, if I've got something else going on, I can very quickly make sure that I'm throwing that at the end of the song to make him feel comfortable. Some verb there, drum vocal, which is his talk back directly to me. So when I hear him say, hey, Colt 45, hear it in my left ear, I can solo that up and now I can hear him and we're talking directly if he needs something. Crowds is a DCA of all my crowd mics. I pump those in and out constantly throughout the show, again, in an effort to make sure that all the guys feel comfortable on stage. They're feeling as much ambience as they want. Lots of call and response that George does during the show, so I can pump that a little bit or a little bit more depending on what's happening. And then I've got this guy, which is a spy mic, which is on the drum rack actually. It's just a little Beta 98, the little AMP version. George will just turn around and start talking to the guys. And he's not wearing in-ears, and they are. So they can't hear anything, they're isolated. But he'll just turn around and start talking. So I can just turn that up, makes that mic live in their ears, and they can communicate very easily. So that's there, so I can very quickly throw that. But they're also doubled right here, so if I just needed to go a bank down, I can. And then this screen is my computers. So I have two computers, two Mac Minis in here, KVM'd, so that I can deal, one is a control computer. It's what I do my wireless workbench on. If I need to get into any of the gear that's networked, if I needed to log on to the front of house console and turn up some house music, sometimes we're in a theater and you would be surprised how complicated it is to get from right here out to the front of house console. It takes 20 minutes to get there. It's ridiculous. So I can just log on to his console and turn house music up and we're good to go.
That's cool.
I can get to the lakes. I can get to any of the Shure units, anything that's networked, basically, I can get on this control computer. And then when I switch over to my second computer, it's a dedicated record. So transferring some files right here to our bass player who wanted some multi-tracks, but I've got running Reaper. It's an excellent program. I wasn't a fan at first, I'll admit. Everybody seems to like Reaper.
I'm not going to judge you. I'm slowly
I was a Tracks Live
judging
person.
you.
Waves had Tracks Live. It was perfect. You just say, hey, I want to use that. It goes 1-to-1. Record, great. Playback, great. Saves my files, I don't care. But then they stopped supporting it. So I was like, all right, I'll get with the times. Everybody wants Reaper, so I will, everybody's using Reaper, so I'll jump to that. And it's a pretty fantastic program. I record a lot of stuff. Right now I'm playing back for virtual sound check. I record almost everything in here. I've got stereo channels. I record the front of house mix. There's a front of house mix in a matrix with audience mics, so I record that. I also record all of my mixes that I send out to the band. So this is hey, last night I kept getting some popping in my ears. Okay, cool. Well, was that something in the console? Was that something that was happening in real time? Was it something in the pack in the wireless, or was it something in the send? I can go back and listen and say, well, there's no popping or crackling here, so there's no popping or crackling here, so that must have been in the wireless or something like that. So that's been really helpful that I can record all of that stuff over Waves. So I do have a Waves card. Like I said, I don't use any outboard plugins just because I don't need it. So the simpler the better. Lots of guitars going on. The simpler the better. If I needed it, I would use it, but I don't for what I'm doing. So I do have a Waves card, one Cat 5, 128 in, 128 out. So it's super flexible that I can get all of that in and out on the computer. So yeah, that's kind of the rig.
One last question for you.
What's up?
What is the best advice you've gotten from one of your mentors?
Whatever happens during the day doesn't matter. You know, it's great that we set all this stuff up and we put all this time, but there's only a couple things that are guaranteed throughout the show. It's the show's going to happen. There's going to be a settlement. We're going to load out. We're going to go to the next one. So it may be easy to get wrapped up in all this stuff and get wrapped up into what all this stuff that's going on. But ultimately, you know, we're cool as long as you're a good human being, because being a good human being and hanging out and having personality and being able to interact with people, live on a bus with people, make sure that people know that you're taking care of them. You're not just over here pushing buttons and messing with them, like you're actually taking care of them and you're there for them. That's probably the best advice I've gotten. Just don't worry about it. Things are going to happen. You get off schedule, things get behind, something doesn't work. It's easy to get frustrated. This is the best job in the world, so you know, don't stress it too much.
Awesome. Thank you so much, man. I appreciate your time.
Absolutely.